Hey everybody, and welcome to Meals with Melissa, where I give you healthier options of the things that you love to eat. So one of the things that I really find myself talking a lot about lately is trying to convince my clients that they can still have the things they love to eat. They just have to find healthier versions of those things that is their vice, right? So, when I ask them what's their favorite food, I get a lot of pizza, and of course there's healthier ways to make pizza, especially if you just, make it gluten-free, you're already on the right track. But, the one I hear a lot is chips. They say, well, I'm not a sweet person. I don't really, have a sweet tooth, but I love chips. And of course my response is, what do you think they turn into when you eat them? They turn into glucose. But I get it. We want something crunchy. We want something that's easy to eat, that it's a snack. And so we're always looking for healthier versions of those things. So today we are going to make avocado chips. I have to make sure I say it correctly or my kids get after me. So just something really fun, something good to eat. And of course it's a healthier fat and it has a lot of nutrients in it. So that's what we're gonna do today. And of course it's gotta be something super simple because I just don't do complicated. I, like you, do not have a lot of time. I wanna be efficient. I'm a mom, a business owner. It's really difficult for me to find any time to myself these days. So I want something that's easy to make and that my whole family will eat. So made a batch of these last night, and the first thing I will tell you is do not overbake them because they will not turn out well. But I'm just gonna make a quick version of this, show you kind of what I came up with, and then I'll allow you to kind of figure out your own groove when it comes to making these. Now, the first thing that I did was preheat my oven to 325. One of the interesting things that I saw, the great thing, I get most of these off of Pinterest, guys. It's not that difficult. I'm just willing to, try it out. But one of the things that I saw, people after they tried it were a couple of things. Number one, they said that it seems a little salty, so obviously you can back off on some of the things. Like we're gonna use some Parmesan today, just regular, like the powdered grated Parmesan today. So realize that is salty. So if you need to back off, you don't have to add the salt to your flavor. And you can always taste test it before you bake it because we're not putting anything in here that would cause you any illness or harm. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna grab an avocado. Now it calls for a large one. I'm just gonna use what I have on hand, which is just a medium-sized one that's probably been sitting here a little longer than I would like, but it happens, right? Sometimes things don't get used as quickly as I would like them to. Easiest way to do this, honestly, is just to use a spoon and scoop it out since we're gonna mash it anyway. Also, I have started to pre-prepare my pan, which of course I'm going to use my favorite all-time tool, which is parchment paper. I love this stuff because it's super easy to clean up when you're done. I don't have to scrub pans and all the goop on it that won't come off. So that, again, is my favorite tool. We use a lot of it. All right, so I'm gonna scoop out the insides of my avocado. And actually it isn't too far gone, so that's not bad. And of course you want it to be ripe. If it's, hard to scoop into, you're not gonna be able to mash it up anyway. And so you want it to be at least ripe. Don't really want it to be overly ripe, but there's always that sweet spot. I don't know about you, but I always test all my avocados when I go to the store. I'm grabby. Oh yeah, I'm grabby. Okay, so put that in the bowl. Now to that, super simple, I'm just gonna add some spices and mix it up. Actually, before I do that, I am gonna use a fork to just mash it up just a little bit because that way everything will mix a little bit easier. So I'm gonna grab a fork, super simple, and just mash. If you've made guacamole, then you probably already have this kind of thing down. And because this is nice and ripe, this is not hard to do at all. All right, so then to this, I am going to add, now I'm gonna, of course, below, I'm gonna put the full recipe that it came in. I believe this is from delish.com. I actually get a lot of great recipes from them. And honestly, I just search a lot of times for low carb, gluten-free. Because I have an autoimmune disease, I do stay gluten-free, and honestly, I really think nobody should be eating gluten, but that's, I do believe that it causes inflammation. That's just from research. Okay, so to this, I'm gonna add a few things. All right, I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon. Again, I'm gonna make a slightly smaller batch than it calls for just because I'm using a medium avocado and not a large one. But again, try it out, taste it out, see what works for you. All right, so I'm gonna add 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, right? Super simple. We carry a lot of this in my house. I use it every morning in my breakfast. So not hard to find. As a matter of fact, I probably should buy it in bulk. There's a few seasonings that we use a lot of. Now, the greatest thing about when you are learning to cook healthy, it doesn't have to be tasteless, right? It doesn't have to be bland. I find it really fascinating. People come to me and they're like, well, I'm just tired of tasteless chicken and rice, boiled chicken, rice, and broccoli. And I'm like, what do you put on it? They're like, well, nothing. Well, why would you do that? You know, we are the one country that does not use spices to their optimal flavor. I just don't understand that, but you know, it is what it is. All right, I'm also gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. And again, I'm just using what we have on hand. So super simple. I tend to try to really keep up on my spices because again, we do use a lot of them as we do more cooking. And of course, my daughter is an amazing cook, so she uses a lot as well. All right, I'm also going to add, let's see, I'm just checking my notes here. 1/2 a teaspoon of lemon juice. Now, I don't like lemon juice in everything that I make. Sometimes I feel like it throws off the flavor, but for this one, it works really good. It just kind of gives it a hint of tanginess, so we're okay there. Just making sure that I've got my half. And we might just make it up, that's fine. Oh, there we go, 1/2 teaspoon, I found it. We have measuring spoons all over the place. Again, we do a lot of cooking, so we tend to need them. All right, and also notice that we buy lemon juice in a large size. We go through a lot of that too. All right, so I'm gonna mash that up, and to that I'm gonna add some of the grated Parmesan. Now again, you probably could use an actual fresh grated, but for what this is, I think the powdered grated works a little bit better, just because of what we're gonna use it for. Okay, so I'm gonna add 1/3 cup. Now the initial recipe calls for 3/4 cup. Again, you know what, you try it, you decide what works best for you. I feel like for what I'm doing today, that's a little too much, but that's, again, just kind of my tasting through it. So I'm going to do about 1/3 cup. It's a little crunchy, but I will work through that with my fork. Oh, there goes my oven, it's ready to go. Okay, that's good. Okay, so I'm gonna mash through that, whoop, and make it a mess, but I clean up, so it's good. All right, so I'm going to mash that up really well. Now, my pan is ready. Now, here's the thing. You have to get these thin enough to make sure that they bake through in a time. And again, you don't want to overbake them or they just taste burnt. So I'm going to scoop these out and press them down. And what I mean by that, give me a second and I will show you. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna bring my pan over here, make them space. All right, so here's my pan. I'm gonna use some of that parchment paper. But what I am gonna do is I'm gonna spray the bottom of a plastic measuring cup, and I'm just gonna push down to make sure that they're nice and flat and even throughout the chips so that they'll bake evenly. Now it says to make them about teaspoon size. I'm just gonna kind of guesstimate that because that I don't wanna take a lot of time and I'm not trying to be ridiculous here. All right, so I'm gonna make these about the same size. You do want to put them about 3 inches apart because of course as they bake out just a little bit, just like cookies, you don't want them to run into each other. I am going to spray the bottom of this and push down on it, and that way it won't stick because of the pan spray. Now, I'm not a huge fan of pan spray because of the stuff in it, right? But we do use a little bit at our house. We just tend to use the olive oil version versus the canola or the regular oil version because those things are horrific for you. All right. So I'm going to pat that down just a little bit with my cup, right? And then you're gonna bake this for approximately 30 minutes. Again, I would keep an eye on it. You want it crispy, but you don't want it to overbake, because I'm gonna show you the batch that I made last night that looked good, but were just a little too roasty toasty. So, all right. So here's what they kind of look like. Again, these are a little too dark. I'm going to bake this batch much, much lighter. I only had 2 avocados on hand, so I couldn't do a second batch just to make sure, but these are just a little too dark and a little too, yeah, they weren't tasty in this form. We're gonna bake them a little bit lighter, but they are crispy. So kind of that is your goal. Definitely let them cool off afterwards and then go ahead and try them and see what you think. You know, again, this is about finding your groove. It's about figuring out how to replace some of those things that you know aren't good for you, especially if you tend to eat them a lot. Find a better option, a healthier option. It might take a little bit of time, and for sure it might take some time to get your taste buds to adapt, because of course anything that you buy that's processed has been designed to make you addicted to it. So it's going to be difficult to change the taste buds so that, you know, the healthier things. I get a lot of people that say, I don't like vegetables. I'm like, that's only because 1, you don't know how to cook them. And number 2, you eat so much stuff that is highly palatable and overflavored that it's difficult to taste the natural sweetness in our vegetables. And of course, if you're buying things that are shipped clear across the country and picked before they're ripe, that's also difficult because they are lacking nutrients, and even some from the overworked soil that we have. So, not a bad idea to grow your own. or go down to your local farmer's market. At least you know where they come from and how they raise or how they grow their vegetables. So have an incredible week, you guys. I will include this recipe down below. And if you have a recipe that you love, that you think is a healthier version of things that everybody loves to eat, why not share it? This is all about having a community that supports each other, because of course you tend to become like the 5 closest people to you that you hang out with. Why not pick a really great group that will support you in your health and fitness goals? Have an incredible weekend, guys. Until next time, that is Meals with Melissa. Have a great day.